What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vincent Esposito, and today we are going to be talking about the 4R protocol. Now, before we get to that, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. Coming out with a couple videos every week on everything from nutrition to health, wellness, longevity, twice a week. So if you stick around, you might learn something. So what is the 4R protocol? Well, I mentioned this on an earlier video, but today we're going to take the whole video and kind of go over the basics of it. So the 4R protocol is something widely used in the functional medicine space to treat a variety of different gut imbalances. Now, these usually happen when our gut bacteria, our gut microbiome is out of whack, and it's a step-by-step method to essentially bring it back to homeostasis where it should be. Now, contrary to popular belief, if you have certain symptoms, they might not necessarily be where you might think they're located. For example, if you have acne, you might think it's a skin problem. If you have headaches, it might be a problem in your head, something like that. But in reality, that might not exactly be where your initial symptoms are coming from. A lot of times, it could be due to some sort of gut imbalance, some microbiome imbalance. And the whole point of the 4R protocol is to bring balance back to the gut in terms of the gut bacteria living there. Now, there are many factors that can cause a gut microbiome imbalance. Things like leaky gut, parasites, or opportunistic bacteria can take hold in the gut where they normally wouldn't. In cases of leaky gut, for example, our intestinal cells are held together essentially hand in hand, almost like a mesh. I've used this example before. And when they become damaged over time, this mesh the holes get bigger. And when the holes get bigger, certain proteins and other toxins that might not get through under normal circumstances are able to get through. And these trigger immune responses, which can then take hold in terms of symptoms all over the body. The goal of the 4R protocol is to restore that balance and recreate that healthy microbiome that we would have under normal circumstances. So the 4Rs consist of 4 different steps. They're going to start with removing, replacing, reinoculating, and then repairing the gut lining. And we're going to go over each of those 4 steps in a little bit. A couple things to note here before we go forward, though, is if you are thinking of doing this on your own, this can take a very long time, sometimes even up to 6 months or even longer. So you need to be really patient with the process. My personal opinion is that you work with some sort of functional medicine practitioner. They could kind of walk you through it. And considering at a biochemical level, we're all a little bit different. Having a resource you can reach out to and get information from while you're going through the process is really crucial, especially if you've never done anything like this before. Now, you might be wondering, well, my gut's in pretty good shape. Well, there are a couple things you can look for. So if you feel pretty good at following a meal, if you're having 1 to 2 or 3 solid bowel movements a day, if you don't experience GERD, gas, or bloating, if you don't feel lethargic, if you're not having diarrhea or constipation following meals, chances are your gut's in pretty good shape and you might not need to do something this intense, at least starting off. Now, that being said, because the gut and the immune system are so closely related, not in proximity and symptomatology, anything from ADHD symptoms to asthma to gut problems, autoimmune disorders, Alzheimer's, insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, the list goes on and on. So if you're dealing with these things, fatigue, headaches, they can actually be some sort of symptoms or keys that you might have some sort of gut disorder going on, and the 4R protocol could be something that's useful going forward. When there's a gut imbalance, it could even lead to things like joint pain, weight gain, and even contribute to the development of some forms of cancers. So again, there's a very wide range of symptoms and diseases that are associated with gut microbiome imbalances. So it's really important to kind of get that rectified if it's not in good shape to begin with, because we only have one gut microbiome and we have to make sure we treat it as well as we possibly could. But without that said, we're going to get into the 4 steps, what they are, and what we can do about them going forward. Now, the first R in the 4R protocol is removing. So our goal is to remove any viruses, opportunistic bacteria, parasites, in the gut and kind of get them out of the way. However, removing also means you want to be removing any sort of food sensitivities or allergies. You want to stay away from alcohol and caffeine, especially in this section, because that leads to a more kind of acidic environment where these opportunistic bacteria thrive in. So those are some of the basics of the removing portion of this. A great place to start in this removing step would be to following an elimination diet and potentially supplementing with a couple things that help remove some of these bacteria and parasites. Things like white willow bark, black walnut, antioxidant supplements, genition, lavender oil, oregano oil. These are all great anti-parasite, antibacterial, antimicrobial supplements you can use to help get rid of those opportunistic bacteria or pathogens that are causing the problem in the first place. Now, step 2 is replace. And depending on your individual situation, this could change. And again, this is why I suggest working with a practitioner. It could be replacing hydrochloric acid in the stomach to help break down protein in the first place. Now, interesting thought here. I'm sure you've heard before, you are what you eat. Well, technically we aren't just what we eat, we are what we are able to absorb. So if we're not able to absorb the nutrients and macronutrients that we're getting from our food, sometimes those opportunistic bacteria are taking them from us. So it's important, again, to replace what's missing in the first place. In addition to betaine, HCl, hydrochloric acid as a supplement, you might look to things like ox bile, pancreatic enzymes, proteases, lipases, all things that will help you break down your food so that you can absorb it better. And again, when there is a gut microbiome that's out of balance, chances are we're not absorbing the foods, even if we are eating the right ones, as well as we should be. Now, there are a few reasons we might have low stomach acid levels. One of the big ones, and I've mentioned this before, is taking proton pump inhibitors, H2 blockers, antacids. These are going to really lower your hydrochloric acid levels. But also, as we age, we tend to produce less stomach acid than we should. So generally, if you're older, this might not be a bad thing to use going forward. To further stress the fact how important hydrochloric acid is, low levels of stomach HCl are associated with things like autoimmune diseases, SIBO, IBS, and leaky gut. So now that we've gotten past those first 2 steps, it's time to get to step 3, reinoculate. And as you might guess, we need to bring back in those good bugs, those good bacteria, and get them back in the gut. So prebiotics and probiotics are the name of the game in this step. In terms of probiotics, you want to be using something that's in the billions of colony forming units or CFUs, and you want to be looking for multiple strains. Those tend to work better, so it could be a mixture of bifidobacteria and lactobacillus. If you happen to be sensitive to some of those, Saccharomyces boulardii is a really good option as well. Also, at this point, it would be really good to focus on some fermented foods and getting those in. So things like kimchi or miso or pickles or all things like that. Cabbage or sauerkraut is great too. Getting those in will help get those good gut bacteria into your gut and provide some of those benefits going forward. It's also a good idea in this step to get prebiotics, and prebiotics are essentially foods that are high in fiber. So we're thinking things like nuts and vegetables and seeds and things that our gut bacteria now, the good gut bacteria, thrive on, whereas the bad bacteria tend to thrive on things like processed sugars and things that we don't necessarily absorb well or do well on in general. That actually leads to an environment where bad bacteria can thrive, and we want to do the opposite. So incorporating those high fiber foods, things like artichokes and asparagus and other vegetables, green leafy vegetables that are very high in fiber content, that's going to be a great way to get prebiotics into your daily eating habits. Finally, we move on to the 4th step, the final step, and that is the repair step. Now, your gut's been through a lot here. There's a lot going on in terms of bacteria getting killed off and new ones coming in, and the gut lining's been kind of all over the place. It could have been leaky gut, and now it's healing a little bit. So we want to help enhance the healing process, and there's a couple different ways we can do that. There are a couple key supplements that help soothe and repair the gut lining, things like DGL or a licorice extract, aloe vera, L-carnitine, Glutamine, L-glutamine is a really great one if you're looking for a way to help soothe the gut lining and help boost those repair processes. Additionally, things like zinc carnosine, omega-3 fatty acids, and antioxidants like vitamin C are also really helpful during this repair process. And those are the basics of the 4R protocol. Now, again, you might be inclined to try this at home. There's a lot of moving parts in this, so I really suggest trying to get some help, especially if you've never done something like this before. Again, generally, depending how long it takes, it varies from person to person, depending on how severe symptoms might be, how long you've been dealing with the problem. There's a lot of different factors, biochemical individuality. There's a bunch of different factors that play a role in how long the healing process might take. But I hope you found this information helpful today. So if you did, please like and subscribe below. Coming out with videos on health and nutrition, lifestyle, longevity advice, again, twice a week. And leave your comments below. Have you tried something like this? Are you interested in it? Do you not know where to start? Do you want to get hooked up with a practitioner that's helpful? Leave comments below and I'd be happy to answer them and see what I can do from my end. But until then, take care, guys.